Welcome to What Have You, featuring Rachel Jankovic and Rebecca Merkel. Before we get started, I want to let you know that the Canon Christmas sale has been extended through December 6th, Sunday at midnight. We can't recommend Rachel's Yoo-Hoo, Loving the Little Years, and Fit to Burst, as well as Rebecca Merkel's Even Exile. Speaking of which, we have a limited edition, very fun cover of Even Exile, now available at canonpress.com. If you order by December 10th, the book comes signed. So head to canonpress.com and check it out.
Welcome back to What Have You. I'm Rachel Jankovic.
I'm Becca Merkel.
Yep. Everybody's here, present and accounted for.
We are together.
And we just thought on this fine December day, we should cast a pod.
It is a fine December
It's
day.
beautiful.
It's clear and gorgeous out, and there's no snow at the moment.
Nope.
So
beautiful.
it's just a really pretty kind of earthy brown time with clean, crisp light.
Beautiful earthy browns. This is the time of year, though, for us where the sun goes down really early.
Yep.
But it is also, because we're getting close to the shortest day of the year.
Yeah, a few weeks out.
Well, yeah. And what happens at this time of year is that sometimes it's kind of a gray day.
Yeah.
But then it's like 4:13 that the sun goes down.
Yeah.
But right around there, the sun gets below the clouds. And we'll have just an incredible, I was telling Luke, it's like a daily dirt and light show.
Yeah.
It's like the shadows and the sunset, and it's just unbelievable. And the mountain lights up. And we all just like walk around and admire it for a few minutes, and then it goes, and that's why we have to have Christmas lights inside, because it's dark too soon.
That's funny.
It's like my opposite problem season where I am trying to make everyone go to bed at 6:45. You're like, I'm like, wait a minute, never mind, I lost
That's
track
true.
of something, or I'm making dinner at 4:30.
Oh, see, I do the opposite. I kind of feel like, I don't know. You do just sort of lose all touch.
Yeah, but in the summertime,
I feel like
it'll be like 9 when you're like,
Oh, yeah.
Did anybody need dinner? I forgot.
Yeah,
I forgot
that's true.
that was happening. But now it's just the time where I'm like, we gotta wrap this thing up. It's dark. It's
That's
hard
what I mean.
outside. We
Like-
gotta go to bed.
At about 4:45, I'm feeling like, well, I guess I'll turn in.
You do get a little muddled. And we're on the breathtaking sprint to Christmas now. Like,
We are.
there's no denying
No.
that we have work to do soon.
No, I need to get my show in order, and I haven't quite brought my mind to bear on the question yet. But we got through Thanksgiving. We haven't talked on the podcast since Thanksgiving, and that was fabulous. We did all the things. Had all the turkey and gravy. Did
For
that
days.
stuff.
For days. We did that.
I installed my seagrass rug. My
Oh,
carpet.
right.
My wall-to-wall carpet.
I feel like I have to backtrack to the turkey to say that Luke just put the turkey on the Traeger. We didn't
Nice.
smoke it. It just, because there's like I don't really know what his
An
Traeger
oven
does. Yeah,
context?
it's like it can work just like an oven, sort of.
Okay.
I'm sure it had some
Yeah,
smoked
nice.
flavor, but it was not a
Okay.
smoked turkey. It
Uh-huh.
was just a cooked turkey. And
Yep.
that, I can't say enough about how much less that was doing. But at the same time, it was weird because it didn't smell like turkey in the house.
Yeah.
So there was a weird
Yeah.
element. I wasn't totally sure what I was doing, but
Mm-hmm.
I really rejoiced in it. And it made me realize that we probably should do that with the prime rib
For Christmas.
for Christmas dinner.
That's a good idea.
I thought so too. I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's send that to the outdoors. Let's take it to
does-
the other oven.
Does seem good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I spent since we weren't hosting, I spent my whole break in a struggle with my bedroom. And first I cleared it all out and I was going to do my carpet, but as these things go, it was the one bedroom in the house that they had removed all the trim from in like the 60s. So I was like, well, I'm yanking the baseboards anyway. So I'll put back nice fat wood baseboards over the carpet. And then you can't do that, though, without those blocks around every door, like matches the old part. So I was like, well, I should find those. So I did. I found them at the junkyard for houses here. Found some old trim. Found accidentally, while I was there, picture rail that matched the rest of the house. So I was like, quick, I should buy that. And then I found myself trying to hang picture rail and all sorts of other... Oh, and then there was a hole in the wall that I was like, well, as long as I'm painting, I should patch that. It was like a big channel cut out for plumbing. And so that led me to be up here at Rachel's house in a blizzard, rummaging through the back of their truck for scraps of sheetrock.
You did that twice.
Twice in the
blizzard.
same blizzard.
We are finishing the basement on our house, so that's how we're dusting our house over in sheetrock dust periodically.
I didn't want to buy a whole thing of sheetrock just for that. But then you find yourself doing sheetrock work and then hanging picture rail and then painting and then all before I could even get to the seagrass. And when I got to the seagrass, when I finally arrived at that fatal day, which was the day after Thanksgiving, I attacked that, and there is nothing that will make you feel like less of a professional than trying to install your own carpet by yourself. But it was glued down. So there was this whole wrangle at the beginning trying to lug this thing in because it weighed like 1,000,000 pounds and it was too wide for the room on the roll and everything. So it was a whole thing. And then I got it mostly down and ran out of glue. Like I thought I had done the work of the math on how much glue I would need. And I had said 2 gallons and I got it and it was ready and I started in. It wasn't enough. And then, of course, it was a holiday weekend. And so then I was having to call people I knew who worked at the carpet store, and they were fabulous. And they got me more glue, and it saved my bacon. It was
needed
wonderful.
to get this out there that Becca and I, sometimes we'll have an errand that we need to accomplish. But we've never had such great success as our last podcast where we said we should talk to Pierce about suet. But Pierce's mother heard us say that and told Pierce.
Great.
And so Pierce himself reached out to us to say, I heard you needed suet. I heard, and I was just thinking, how many other things could we ask for? Like, be like,
anyone, carpet glue.
Yeah,
I
Becca
have a
needs
quick
carpet glue this weekend.
She
doesn't.
We
You
need to
handled
bookmark
it, right?
really quick because we got to come back to the suet. But the thing is, the carpet in the end, the fabulous people of Carpet Mill bailed me out, got me the glue. I glued it down. I hung the baseboards. It turns out I can't understand the interior angle cut with a chop saw. It's very hard for me, but I can do exterior ones just fine. But for some reason on the picture rail, I cannot figure it out. There's like 100,000 different ways you could put the board in to cut it 45 degrees, and it's too hard. And Ben was really befuddled about what I was struggling with, and I was like, "No, you don't understand. Like I can't get it." Anyway,
my brain can't do this one.
But by the end, I was beginning to like channel the mood of the chop saw, and I knew which way to put the board in to get it to cut the right way.
There is a certain kind of like, it's sort of like the trick when you're little of putting your sleeves in the coat upside down, and then it whizzes over your head to be the right way.
Yeah.
But it seems totally impossible when you're a kid that would work.
But also, like, the flat board, like the flat wood of the baseboard, no problem. I can just understand it and put it in. It's the curvy molding that then I sit there and I really can't figure it out. And anyway, all to say, I did it. I got it in. I got
Congrats.
the trim in. It's making me happy. I've got a lot left. I'm designing fabric for my curtains and my bedding right now, so that's exciting. And then that's all. That's my update on that. But, suet, we've got to circle back because I have more to say about that.
Okay.
We mocked the puddings of England.
We didn't.
We did. We did.
We both
We did.
purchased a pudding
I was gonna
basin
say,
afterwards, so
we
we
did
can't
it.
have really been mocking
Well,
it.
we did, because we were guilty enough to both of us purchase a pudding basin. So,
Knowing that you can't mock what you haven't succeeded
yeah.
at.
So what we did was each of us ordered a pudding basin, and I
was very surprised when it came out of the box. I thought I got something much bigger than that.
no, puddings aren't big.
I didn't see it being just a wee little nubbins.
It's like a little softball-sized pudding. But the thing is, so
I'm actually glad because I'm pretty sure it's not going to be the thing that we
no.
can't stop eating.
But
so.
here's what we did. We were like, all right, bless you.
Pardon.
It's Stir Up Sunday. We got to stir it up. So my family did. I had to.
Becca hogged the suet.
I had to email Kara in England a million times to be like, I don't understand what this is talking about. And she was fabulous and sent me photos of things and walked me through it till I was like, okay, I think I've got my head on straight here. We mixed it up. We stuffed it on into that pudding mold that had come in the mail. I went to steam it all day and all night for like 5 hours. And, two things went wrong. One, I had overstuffed the pudding mold apparently because it didn't occur to me that the recipe for a pudding might not fit in a pudding mold. So I just jammed it on in there right up to the rim, stuck the lid on it, and popped it into
You made
steam.
more of a pudding blossom.
Well, apparently they rise. I mean, the lid lifted off and it was pudding coming out the top. I was like, well, that doesn't seem good. And then I forgot and I left the house and it boiled dry and it just toasted the pudding, like just sort of gave it a nice toast. So I had to throw that one away, and we are going to have to reapproach
yeah.
the stir up. And we did it on
Do
Stir Up Sunday.
Do people do it without suet? Can you do it just with butter or something?
I still have the
instead?
suet, Rach. You've got to
But
like
you never
no,
give it to me.
but I have it. So let's just do this thing. Rachel's using the royal family recipes.
No, I think somebody maybe sent it to us or something. So, and then when I looked at it, I was like, oh, that, you know.
Anyway, we're totally off the liturgy now because Stir Up Sunday has come, it's gone. I burned the one
And
I
I make
stirred up.
Bouche de Noël for Christmas dinner anyway, so this is already like,
This is just excursions in cultural awareness.
yeah. I
So-
feel like I'm having a lot of those right
But
now.
anyway,
because,
we're going to have to do it.
yeah.
And I have my pudding mold.
Today's
You
the
have
day
yours.
when my sourdough starter performed well enough to be enrolled in the Panettone
Oh, Rachel.
school of.
Well,
I know it's really a lot
Yeah.
of doing to get it to this point, to see it through. Turned out to have been a simple error of mine that kept us so long from success. Having read the whole care and keeping of your sourdough starter in preparations for Panettone and then not consulted it again, I was doing too dry of a feeding it, and it was like a stiff, like you have to knead it, you know?
yeah.
But it has to be tripling in 4 hours. And mine was like 2.2 in 4 hours. Like,
Yeah.
it was like constantly just 2 point
It was a
something.
little sluggish.
Yeah. So then I went back to consult this maintenance of your sourdough starter and realized that I was making it do too much work. It could have been a little moister. And then I did it with a little more water, and it just
Oh, that's good.
voluminous all over the town. So, but I think I have to buy some Vital Wheat gluten in order to alter the protein content of my bread flour, which I don't usually do that
I
by.
don't think the women who pioneered Panettone really probably went through all that. Do you think?
No, but I actually, probably, but except for assuming that they were just using a regional flour, that they had bread flour, it just works better with a higher protein flour.
Okay.
And I have a high protein, but not quite as high as it
Got
could
it.
be. So, you know, in the end, I'm probably going to make like a Frisbee that... and we will put it behind us. We will be like, well, there was that year that Mom made a big run at a Panettone. but nothing came of it. You know, the thing is that that's what I mean when I always tell people to let your ideas die with dignity, because maybe it won't be dignified, but on the side of it being like just finding out what it actually is like and how it turns out.
Yeah.
This is the quest, right?
Yeah, well,
To
that's what
find
I'm
out.
gonna do with the danged pudding, because I'm gonna take another run at this. We stirred it up even, yea verily, from east to west, the way you're supposed to properly do it, so as to remember the Magi. Mostly what we had was a great big family do about how do you stir a round bowl from east to west. It doesn't matter which way you go. You're gonna start at the east, you're gonna end in the west.
I'll tell you how.
Yeah.
You go from east to west, and then you turn the bowl. And then you go from east to west, and then you turn the bowl again. Because once you're coming back from west to east, you're no longer commemorating Christmas. You're not. You're doing it wrong.
See, my kids were like having this. It was quite funny, actually. They were having this big thing about like, no, you're doing it wrong. You've just undone all the good work that the other person did.
Mm-hmm. Oh man.
Anyway, we'll keep you updated on the pudding progress.
Yeah. I wrote an Instagram post about this, but I think it's something we can all bear to think and talk about some more. So why don't I bring it up here now?
Please do.
I kept thinking through Thanksgiving, because it's pretty wild times at Thanksgiving. And I kept just having that feeling like sometimes it's really crazy and you feel like things are just zooming on past you and you are not as organized or not as, like, all the goals that you had, you're not necessarily achieving.
No.
And this is really a real thing, because I know we've talked about it on the podcast before, but it's a real delicate balance to care enough to put all the work into trying and not care so much that you're losing your stuff over the problems that come with working hard.
Yep.
So, like, if you, for instance, are like, I'm going to make a gingerbread house with the kids, but then you're coming unglued that the large house panel broke, or that something. Mm-hmm. It's like, you know what? You got to do both. You got to want to do it, and you've got to be lighthearted about the failures.
It is hard, because I know that for me, I am actually able to remain fairly chill about something that is a real snarl. Like, let's say, like my upstairs bathroom that we gutted years ago, that's turned into like a strange storage department of things that I don't want.
But, you know, guys, I think it's important that we all just appreciate that at least they're not using the bathroom that was ugly.
Yep.
Because that's
actually not why we gutted it, but
I can't remember actually.
But you're right about that.
I just mean at least it's not. At least
luckily,
you haven't had to do that. Yeah.
But the thing is as long as I'm not worried about that room, I can be like, yep, that's a mess. I need to get to that. And I can remain fairly chill. The problem is when I go in there and I spend 2 days organizing it, getting it all sorted out, trying to get some sort of order in there, much easier for me to fall into sin over it. And it's really funny because it could be 1,000 times better than it was yesterday. And it's still much harder for me to remain godly about it. Because I think it's that sensation that if you're sitting on the sidelines, you're okay with not winning the race. But as soon as you have actually entered the race,
and you're
not cool with being in last place anymore.
Right.
And that's the trick, is to be able to run fast and be okay with not being in first place.
It really is doing your best and being open-handed about. And it's different, too, when you're doing stuff that you're hoping will be tradition building or whatever.
Or will turn out beautifully.
It's so easy for Christian moms to get into this weird kind of like, I am going to, I'm going to make these cookies and I will tell them the story as I do this, and they will forever remember their mother imparting godly wisdom to them whilst she bestows Christmas joy upon them. And this will be what they think of always. And then what will happen will be nothing like that, and it will instead be, my children remember forever Mom totally losing her business over, somebody spilling the milk, and she just freaked out that nobody cares about Jesus in this family. and that's the thing, is that how do you care so much and be so responsive to what God actually is giving you?
Yeah.
And the thing that's really a blessing about that is that the more you just kind of lean into it reminds me a lot of running. You mentioned the race, but I ran track. So it reminds me a lot of running the 400 is really hard. But so much of performing well in that is learning how to push your body into certain things and how to relax in certain kinds of pain and how to be. And so much of getting your family through the holidays, where it's joyful and fun, is about that balance of extreme exertion corresponding with just letting go of a lot of things and not being, But I say all this because I was talking about it because of Thanksgiving, and in that time I kept thinking, if we're screaming down a hill in the wagon, just keep all your limbs in. Don't start buffing your ankles on the gravel that goes by. Because you're you can't fix some of this. Some of it is just happening.
Yeah.
And you need to chill out a little bit and just deal with it. Keep all your emotions on board.
Yeah.
Don't find yourself, especially, little shout out to the COVID diaries of 2020. There's plenty of people out there right now, moms who are, for the first time, it's like a coming of age year, because there are moms who are cut off from their own family. If you always celebrated Christmas with the real adults in the family, but now you're the only, you're the one that has to bring all the noise this time, or you have to do. There's a lot of that. And I think it's just a good year to reflect on the fact that this is good for us to have to lean into it.
And I think recognizing your own temptations, and because everybody's going to have their own unique
because there are people out there that all they do is curl a lip when they see other people trying to frost cookies.
Yeah.
They're like, you loser. You think that's worth anything.
I know. And
that's not my temptation, so just...
But, if I know...
Just FYI, that's not the problem I'm having.
But if I know that when I tackle a big project in my house, that's going to be the minute that I will be tempted to get cranked off at it not being done. Weirdly, the time when I'm doing it is when I can get tweaky that it's not done. If I know that in advance, then it's quite easy to say, aha, I see this temptation coming. And then when it comes, you're like, see, I thought this would happen. And then you can sidestep it.
I would say one other one is the more thoughtful things you're trying to do for your family, just keep it totally in mind that you're trying to give something, you're not trying to receive it. And so giving it, you don't ever want everyone to feel like Mom's doing all this fun stuff for Advent because she wants us to be incredibly more thoughtful than we are.
Sure.
Or she'll be mad at us that we didn't think to bring her breakfast in bed or something. and she's just that all of this will result in some big throwdown where Mom tells everyone that they don't love her anymore.
Don't do that.
No.
Don't do it.
Give freely and give hard.
Yeah.
I do need to, I'm just going to give a tip while I'm on this topic, because it happened at Thanksgiving and I thought it was really funny.
Okay.
Back to the turkey on the Traeger. When Luke brought it in, he threw foil over it, and then he put a beach towel on top of it. And I guess that was just an insulating, giving it a moment to kind of settle, redistribute its juices.
Yeah.
But that beach towel was in the kitchen, and so it just happened that I realized I was drying a dish with a beach towel. and I had a moment of this is And then I was just like, this is wildly convenient. Like, because the first thought was, why am I doing this with a beach towel? And the second thought was, why am I not always doing this with a beach towel? Who made this arbitrary small towel size a thing in the kitchen? But now it's just totally cracking me up because we used that beach towel all the way for quite a while on
Doesn't it like
Thanksgiving.
drag on the floor while you're trying to dry it?
If you were walking around, but from the Department of Hand Washing tons of pots and pans and stuff, we were setting them on it, and there was still tons to go around to dry it off. And we were really laughing about this, like the beach towel that saw us through Thanksgiving. But I was really getting tickled about the idea of putting a hook on the wall in the kitchen with a full throttle, like a huge towel hanging there. It's funny because half of me is like, this could be so helpful. And the other half of me is like, people would be so weirded out by that. And then that's funny in itself, like how weird it would be to see a huge towel on the wall in a kitchen. Because you would, especially with my sink, people would be concerned that you're actually bathing there. But then I was like, we should make some ginormous kitchen towels. I was like, what would you do to indicate that this is clearly a kitchen towel? And then
Print a big lemon on it.
Yep. And then I was getting tickled at the idea of people ordering it off of Amazon and being like, what the heck? I thought this was a normal dish towel. But I'm just telling you, when the going gets tough in your kitchen, consider a beach towel. You might not have. And it really, that one
funny.
beach towel did the work of like 12 hand towels.
Pretty good, yeah.
Because it is like a thicker terry. It kept going for ages.
I can see that.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, consider it a tip. And if you are bolder than I am, and you just hang up a flight of beach towels in your kitchen, please send me a picture, because for some reason, this is something that is blessing me a lot.
That's
to
really
imagine
funny.
the
I
beach
like it.
towels. Yeah, try it next time, Beck.
Okay.
Try it.
I can't. Where would I put it? I don't have a counter.
I'm not talking about what? Yeah, but wherever you put your dishes.
Well, that is the question that we ask ourselves. Where do we put the dishes? In a kitchen that has nowhere to put the dishes? That's a perennial question.
Well, when you wash a pan, where do you put it? Don't you have a dish drainer on this side?
No, I don't. We have children.
What do? Put it on your head?
Wash, dry, and put it away at the same time. And when I say away, I mean onto the big gorilla shelf that
Yeah, but that's a place.
is sitting there, you know.
Yeah. Well,
It is by faith. By faith, we are processing along
you're
towards a kitchen.
questing towards the counter.
a kitchen.
Well, maybe for your kitchen housewarming, when you get a
someday.
counter, I'll buy
Yeah.
you a beach towel.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
I'll use it too.
That'll be good. That will be good. Yep.
So yes, I think this is a specialty season. I think because holidays are always going to be a bit fraught.
And they always bring out the most deeply held desires and hurts in people.
And then layer on top of that a little deluxe COVID time. And you've got a special brew that you could either use to really glorify God or to really make a big mess.
I thought one of the sweetest things that happened for me I turned 40 on Thanksgiving, and it really felt like a coming of age day in so many ways.
Yeah,
it was really funny.
I can see that.
But it mostly felt like that because the night before, I went to bed with 5 of my children up making things that were not on the plan or the schedule in the kitchen that they had rummaged through. They were motivated. You know, they started reading the cookbooks. They started pulling out things that was like, we have all the stuff for this. Why don't I make this? And it just was really fun. They didn't need me, so I went to bed.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, but it was a huge bomb. The kitchen was a deep bomb and 5 of them were still up. They stayed up until 1:30 in the morning.
Nice.
And when I got up, the kitchen was all spiffy clean, and
Oh,
the fridge
nice.
was full of pies. They made pies and a butternut squash fontina tart for the appetizer.
Nice.
Lena made a cardamom buttermilk pie that was
Ooh.
unbelievably good. I
That's
didn't
fun.
know what a buttermilk pie would be like, but it
Yeah.
was really good. And there was all kinds of variety done. But the thing that was fun about that is I hadn't planned any of those things. It wasn't me saying,
Right.
this is what you have to get done. So
Right.
it was fun. But had I been more organized, I would not have seen this in them either.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I had been like, no, the fridge is totally organized and these are all the appetizers and this is what we're doing, it would not have left that room for them
Yeah.
to be like, how about I do this, or how about
Yeah.
we, and it ended up being just a super fun,
That's great.
super fun.
very
I think
cool.
I will always remember that from this Thanksgiving, from the wildness of my 40th birthday Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
It was
That's-
really fun. It was a fun thing that the kids stayed up way past me.
That's very fun. Well, I do think you're right. There's a lot of people who can't go to extended family, whatever, like they always do. And I'm sure I've said this before.
So all their old traditions may be gone.
But the first year we were in England, I was very geared up for Thanksgiving because I was like, all right, it's all me this year. I'm going to have to make the Thanksgiving dinner. It's a whole situation.
Yeah.
And then I did not think of Christmas dinner until Christmas Eve afternoon. It was like, it just hadn't crossed my mind that if we
That's
were
so
going to
funny.
have a Christmas dinner, it was going to have to be me.
Yeah, you're like,
Because-
clearly I'm going somewhere for that. We
Yeah,
always
because
do.
well, it just hadn't crossed my mind at all because I don't know. I thought of Christmas breakfast and then it suddenly was like, oh no. And all the grocery stores closed at 4. And so I went screaming off to the grocery store and I got there at like 3:30 and there was nothing. Like it was sold out of all meat. And I came back with a large fish because that's what there was. I was like, I can't believe I did this, but they were just sold out because they were going to be closed.
Yeah.
Like for several days, because I think they might have even been closed Boxing Day too. So anyway, it was kind of like there was nothing, and it was a complete fish, like a whole fish.
Kids, for this Christmas dinner, we're going to have hard-boiled eggs.
And actually,
Treating ourselves to some canned tuna.
I think it was a really fun dinner, as I recall, but it just took me very by surprise.
Oh, that's
And
really
so,
funny.
but then the next year it was on my radar. Like, all right,
Wow.
Christmas dinner
I
will
have to be the
me.
grown-up about that.
I will do it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that always leaves room to get all sulky and sad that you can't go do whatever it is you're used to doing, or it leaves an opportunity to try something new and
I think
do
that
something fun and-
if I had to guess what is the dominant struggle of our listeners out there this year, I would guess that the thing that more people are slipping into right now would be self-pity. More like,
Yeah.
it's so hard for me to be doing all this stuff anyways, and now people expect me to pull off a holiday, and now, like there's
Yep.
that little resentment, or I have so much to do. I needed to have my parents, because I know for a lot of people, I know people who can't because of the border, because of you can't go to Canada or you can't come
Yeah.
from Canada. That's like just. It's
Yeah.
not an option.
It's hard.
But I also know people who have family that they always see that they're just not on the same page with how careful are we being right now about COVID. So then it introduces, it's not just like I can't be there, but it might be I can't be there and we're having weird tension, or and they think we're reckless and we think they're uptight, or and there's just all this kind of, there's a lot going on. So I think that desire to kind of
I think
sit and feel the feels about how bad it is for you.
If you find yourself zooming out, panning back and looking at yourself and just seeing yourself as the tragedy queen, or seeing how hard it is for yourself, wishing that other people could see the perspective that you
if
have
only they did.
of yourself.
Why aren't they always looking at us?
But
anyways? Yeah.
don't they see how much I have put into this
Yeah.
already?
Yeah.
And then the fact that, you know,
if they
you're-
weren't so absorbed in their own problems, they
Yeah,
would
or
be
just-
looking at mine with me.
or-
If
Yeah.
only more
Yeah.
people would focus
Or if
on
they-
my issues.
if they actually were looking over here, they would see how much I have invested. Anyway, it's just
Never
kind
mind
of
all
like,
the people you can't possibly be noticing your own self while focused on
I just think that if you find yourself looking at yourself from a distance like that, that's the first clue that you've gone wrong.
No.
And I feel like the thing that we've done with our older kids, like when the kids were little and they fell into an attitude debacle, then it's your parenting job to go get them out of it, because they can't by themselves, and that's what you're there for.
Well,
It's
I
like,
specifically say, this is, well, because we say with Moses or whatever, if he's talking to fussy boys, we say, it sounds like the fussy dragon ate you. And it's so you're going to kill him or I will. But
Right.
the job that Jesus gives us is to kill the fussy dragon.
Yep.
Like we can't, that's not a thing that can be. So if I will say, so you kill him, we always joke about this. I'm like, are you going to do it or should I? Because one of us will. And I was like, and do you know how I do it? And they always are laughing at this because I'm like, I do it by spanking your bun. And that kills the fuzzy dragon.
and
he totally gets it. All of the kids before him totally got it.
Yeah.
And it's actually a real gift. I'm getting distracted here. It's a real gift to your children to give them, it forces on them the experience, the physical experience of locating their own emotions and grabbing it by the back of the neck and forcing it to obey. And that's a skill that they desperately need.
Yes. And I feel like those early years when you're paddling them, it is you teaching them how to do it themselves. It's the training wheels, but obviously at some point those training wheels come off. And so when the kids were older, it's not like that meant they would never have an attitude problem.
No,
but when
it
they
meant
would
that it
start
was-
to get older, it would be like, you know what? I think what you ought to do is just pop up to your room for a minute, pray through this, and then come back. And sort of like, you can't be gone for more than 5 minutes. Like, go up there,
We
take
do
a
the
minute,
same.
read a psalm, pray, get your heart right, come back, make it right, we'll move on.
Yep.
And make it
I do the
snappy.
same. That's like next time I see you, which will be in 5 minutes, you will have a cheerful face on and you will have something to put right with someone.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that is a good exercise for older kids. Well, you're teaching them to be able to deal with it the way they will have to for the rest of their lives. But it doesn't work if you also are not doing it with your own self.
Right?
So
Right.
if
You
you
can't do
find
that.
yourself rolling out the dough with too much oomph and follow through in the kitchen as you're thinking about just set it down and go into your room for a minute and pray.
I do the
and come back.
I make them read a psalm. Sometimes I pick out a psalm that I make them read and it's either like, can you do this by yourself or should you do it with me? That you're going to read it as a prayer. Mm-hmm. And I think I always get this one wrong, which is why I'm trying to look it up. Is it Psalm 52? Nope. It's always, it's in
Create in
the,
me a clean heart.
yeah, but it's 51, 50, some.
I would have said 53, but I might be wrong.
No, the fool says in
No.
his heart there is no God. That's not
Well,
that one.
that's sometimes
That'd be-
applicable too.
yeah, but I think it's I'm going back.
It's in
no,
the 50s, isn't it? 30? No.
I think it's right around
We're
50,
really
but every
nailing
time I
our
say this,
scripture
but
knowledge.
every time I say this, I have to do this.
There we go.
Yes.
You found it. 51.
Yeah, Psalm 51 is a great one where I say, read this out loud, but begin with, Dear Heavenly Father, and end with, in Jesus' name, amen. This is your job. Go pray that. That's what I do if they're in that kind of, I don't know what's wrong, it is like, sometimes we don't have the words, but God gave us words. So go pray this.
Yeah.
Pray it, get it right, come back, lickety-splickety.
Yeah.
We're going to be back.
And get it done. But I think it's just important for you to, if you find yourself in your head running through the pageant of your wrongs.
Or for instance, because 2020 has so set us all up to feel sorry for ourselves, what if you're just liking to work through what's so hard for you right now?
Yeah.
If it's like, well, and then, so like say you have a minute to sit down with your coffee. Are you scrolling through your list of grievances? Or are you like thinking in terms of what can you do to turn a profit on things? Or how can you honor God in this instead of being like, look at me and what I have to deal with?
Yeah. And there's always going to be opportunities as you look at something that is difficult or hard or complicated. There's going to be opportunities for you to innovate something new and fun, or opportunities for you to double down on the unfun. And
in the poor me's department.
And the interesting thing about the poor me's is the more you find yourself nurturing the poor me, the less does anyone else feel like giving that.
I'll tell you why that is. As a person who is singularly ill-suited
yourself.
I am singularly ill-suited to feel sorry for those who feel sorry for themselves.
Exactly.
It's not one of my spiritual gifts. It's actually a thing that I have to be intentionally working on. But the reason is you've done it yourself.
Yeah.
You don't need anybody else's
It's kind of like
pity.
you've already received your reward.
Exactly. You decided to be pitied by men, and you've done it. So, you got what you needed here. There's nothing left for you. But I will say, this is me launching into one of my most controversial opinions that I've ever aired on the podcast.
Okay, what is it?
I think you would feel my feelings on this point.
You don't think I'm going to be shocked and horrified?
No, I just think if you had been doing what I've been doing lately.
What have you been doing lately?
I listened to Mansfield Park again, Jane Austen, because
weirdly I spoke about this at my
every
honors class at lunch.
time I
Your
say a
feelings
thing
about Mansfield Park in specific.
Weird.
I know.
What happens to me is Mansfield Park comes up in some way. Usually by someone citing Fanny Price as a good character. And I say, I hate Mansfield Park. But then people immediately rush into conversation, assuming I have a far better, more recent knowledge of Mansfield Park than I do. And they say something like, but when Aunt Norris says, and I'm like, who the heck is Aunt Norris? Clearly, I needed to sort out my plot points. I needed to listen to this. So I had listened to Emma again, and so I was like, oh, I listened to Mansfield Park just to see about. And Becca,
it's still bad.
So bad. So bad. And I do think,
I believe you.
I do have to give Jane Austen credit that I think if you went wrong on a book that you were writing with a fountain pen, you can't easily zoom back and redo. No. So I think it's kind of like a long monologue. You kind of just have to go with what you've done, you know? Yeah. At the point where you've messed up as badly as she did in that book. I can see how but I really feel like she phoned in the ending, like, in a kind of...
It's funny, because that's why I was talking about it at lunch at the honors meeting. I was like, my sister feels this way about Mansfield Park, because... Anyway.
How weird that. Well, now that I double-checked my data, I discovered that I do, in fact... deeply detest Mansfield Park.
Well, interestingly, I detested Fanny Price enough the first time around that I have never returned that way.
Well, you know what it made me feel this time? This is why I said it might be my most controversial piece ever.
Okay, all right.
It made me think that Jane herself needed counseling. Like, because I was like, the author who could write this is troubled in some ways.
Well, but see, I do love Pride and Prejudice, and I think it's very astute and, well, I mean, it's obviously just clever in many ways, but she seems to have a real handle on things in Pride and Prejudice.
Yes, because
real
she's
insightful.
Insightful, and she's a little satirical about like the Mrs. Bennet character. And I have a concern with this one, because when I listen to Emma, I like the story of Emma is a good story. And there's a lot of points in Emma that are great.
Okay.
But when you're actually listening, I mean, when you actually read it unabridged or listen to it unabridged, there's a lot of ways in which I think, and this is not me just being critical of Jane for no reason, but the things that she makes fun of and the satire and the points that she's trying to make, it also comes out in that book that she's also herself part of that culture, which she can't escape. And I would never say she ought to show no signs of actually living in that culture.
Course.
But it's interesting because she is poking fun at something that she's also accepting in one way. Like there's, like it's kind of like, this is how it is.
Sure.
Not, whatever. But in Emma, I think I like it. Pride and Prejudice is great. Emma is good, but there's some of that, but it's a great book. But Mansfield Park, I feel, is where all the wheels come off the wagon. Because I think that Jane herself, I think more of her own temperament is in that book in a weird way. I do, because
maybe she just was having a moody time.
Maybe, but it wasn't. She's not making fun of Fanny. Fanny doesn't, Fanny is just this character who is way, way, way too into herself. And she is really into herself by always being weak and sad and thinking very little of herself. But she is absolutely bloated in her own conceit in all ways. But it's weird because I do not get the impression that Jane herself was trying to point that out. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't get, and with Emma's foibles, she's pointing out. Harriet's foibles, she clearly sees. Mrs. Bennet's and Mr. Bennet's and Mary and Lydia. Those are all...
and Elizabeth.
And Elizabeth.
Mr. Darcy.
But those are all characters that she seems to see clearly.
Yeah.
And Fanny Price, I think she loses her mind with Fanny Price. And I can't even on that. And there are all these points where she's not making fun of her. She's not trying to bring it up to make light of it. And the only thing that is, she just says that she is a really, it's like the only thing that makes her a good character is the things that Jane just asserts that she's like insightful, but she never is. She's never steady or good character or anything. We just say that she is.
Right.
But she's actually being an absolute self-absorbed beast the whole way through it. And she just does it the whole way. And it reminds me of that Angelina Ballerina book we once mistakenly purchased. And the Angelina Ballerina book where Angelina wants to be the star of the show, but someone else got the ballet part. And the good news ending of this book is that the person who was the star of the show sprains her ankle. So Angelina gets to be the star of the show after all. And that's exactly what I think happened in Mansfield Park, is that Fanny, through no benefit of her own at all, through nothing, just lands on her feet through someone else's crisis that Jane phoned in at the end. So that's just one of the controversial things I'd like to leave you with today. I feel like, man, I could go on the warpath about how little I like Fanny Price. I cannot enjoy her.
I'll hold your coat while you do it. But
you should go dust up on it, because I think you would feel the same way.
I know I would, because I thought it the first time, but I just...
You know what one of the things that just cheeses me off about her the whole time is they just tell us that she has, it's like Edmund knows no one of greater judgment or something. But yet, all she does is fear and feel things intensely.
Okay, but...
And then she hoofs it off anytime that something happens that belittles her or makes her feel small or unwanted. She's always racing off to go reflect on it and weep in another... Like, she treasures up her wounds and takes them off to reflect on them. And then, worse than that, she measures the value of all people by how much they need her to be there. Like, she's like, can't wait to go home where she will be valued more. Or where...
So, I haven't... It's been way, 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 way long. I don't remember any characters from that book. But Pride and Prejudice, though, like... Elizabeth's whole thing that she prides herself on is the judgment of character. Like, she has the ability to judge character. And she's kind of presented like that. You know, like, she's the one who's a little bit sharper. She's like her father. She sees people more clearly, etc. But she's the one who was wrong about her best friend. Yeah. She's wrong about Wickham. She's wrong about Darcy. She's wrong about Bingley. And I think that's what Jane Austen is doing. Like, she's showing you that she prides herself on her being a good judge of character, and yet she's basically 0 for 6 by the end of the book. But
it's weird because...
Is it possible that Fanny Price is something similar? Is my question.
I don't see it because it doesn't... That's what I think is missing, is that she doesn't change as a character.
And Elizabeth does.
Elizabeth notices what a darn fool she's been.
Yeah.
And you could probably get super nuanced and say that Fanny changed as a character in, like...
Yeah.
But she also... There are all these ways in which she massively wrongs the people that she's with by not expressing her concern. Like, she's, like, so worried that people will think ill of her that she doesn't pass on the news in any kind of a timely manner that might have spared them all the grief, right? And instead, she's, like, so... you know, always in a twist of her own anxiety somewhere. That she's... And I just think it was mean-spirited of Jane to make someone like that also perpetually physically weak. Like, she's always can't walk very far, or she's too tired and can't... But it's not something, it ends up with her as she is finally being valued for what she has always been.
Oh dear. Okay.
But it doesn't end with kind of a like...
She had to snap out of it.
It doesn't end with any kind of a, you know what, I was way too self-absorbed.
Right.
And it does things like where she's anxious because her uncle is coming home. And she's anxious because she gets in a real whiz in her own brain about feeling so guilty that she doesn't feel more desire to see him. Like, oh, and how much honor she owes him, but she's not feeling it. And I think that that's the thing is that it's written as a way that's supposed to be like she's keenly aware of her own duties. But the thing is she's just keenly aware of her own emotional self. Yeah. And that's actually the only thing she's paying attention to. It's like, I don't feel what I think would, you know?
Yeah.
I just don't like her. I don't like the whole setup. I think it's just a bad time. And while I'm on such offensive topics...
Yeah, might as well. Why
we
not?
could segue directly into the failure with Little Women. Is that Joe should have married Laurie, and there's no excuse for the way it happened. And
good
Professor
old
Bauer,
Louisa May, she whiffed
Professor Bauer was a figment of the imagination that was just trying to land a story that went the wrong direction.
When they didn't have the delete button.
Yes, if they couldn't have just gone back and be like, "That was dumb. Let's insert a part that makes more sense," you know. So. These are my unpopular... I mean, I guess this is kind of like... We turned this into an unpopular podcast on literary matters. The unpopular
rude
pod.
Criticism.
Last time it was the Christmas pudding. This time it's... Mansfield Park.
I feel like if you just went around and spake ill of Louisa May Alcott and Jane Austen in the same...
We can't let this end without throwing out the name L.M. Montgomery.
actually moments of genius all over the place.
In all
here.
of them.
Yeah.
In all of them, there is.
Yeah.
Because I think the reason that that Mansfield Park annoys me so much is because Jane is actually amazing and capable of really great stuff.
Well, and I also...
And that's why I actually thought in this one that I wondered if we were actually seeing Jane's own weakest spot.
Or maybe she was trying to do something and she just didn't do it as deftly or something.
Yeah.
But the
Maybe
thing
it just didn't come together in
like,
the end.
I think that all the people who are ridiculous about Jane Austen, who have the pillowcase that says Mr. Darcy and me or whatever,
Wow.
it's like,
Wow.
I've seen those.
I
It's
saw
too
someone
bad.
made a big vinyl wall cling in a girl's nursery. It was like a crib under a big scrolling
Waiting for Darcy?
scrolling script on the wall that was like, "You must allow me to tell you how ardently I love and admire you."
Well, the thing is
I'm like, what?
the people who get into Jane Austen in a weird fan fiction kind of a way,
Yeah.
I think Jane herself would have done great things with them as characters
Yeah.
in one of her
Yep.
books.
It's actually
But the same goes for Anna Green Gables, because
Yeah.
she's cast as this ridiculous little person who's lovable but ridiculous.
somebody pointed us out recently
and then people try
that at
to
least
be like it.
Yeah, but that Anne does herself. Montgomery does actually make her as a character outgrow that and be
Yeah.
embarrassed of it. So
Yeah.
it's not like she was setting it up as a pinnacle.
No,
but other
and you're
people
supposed to laugh at it. And that's what Jane Austen is
Yeah.
giving us, a bunch of characters we're supposed to laugh at, which is why it's very funny when I think people miss the whole humor, get infatuated with the outfits, and then try to
Yes.
really live in the ambiance.
I think I agree with that. And actually, I don't dislike Ella Montgomery. I just don't. I think it's just it's a mashup of that feeling of, it's like actually that quote that I love that says the remarkable thing about Shakespeare is that he really is that good in spite of all the people who say he is.
Yeah.
And I think that there's ways in which
Yeah.
Jane Austen is, Tolkien is this way. Like,
Yeah.
he is really amazing.
Yeah.
But the way his fan clubs go can put
Yeah.
you off.
Well, you see the old
There's a dark
the
side.
VW bus that says "Not all who wander are lost," and you're kind of
You're
like,
like,
Tolkien would have a word about you.
Did you see the Babylon Bee that came out with Gollum? Gollum shares his preferred pronouns are ours's and theirs's. I
good.
felt like that was real good.
I
They
like it. I
put
like
a
it.
finger on it with that one.
Well, now that we've gone and honked everybody's noses on
no,
that
we have
question,
not. We have not. Just, try
Don't
to
be like Fanny.
endeavor to. Just don't. Just don't do it. It's not cute. Nobody wants it.
it's not big and it's
There-
not clever.
Yeah, well, at least now that I sallied into this argument, at least I've recently dusted up on the characters in the book and I could tell you who
So-
Mary Crawford is. At least I know that now.
That's
so
good.
I feel in a little bit of a better enforced
Yeah.
situation to complain about the book.
Good.
All right. Well, until
everyone,
next time, happy
see you
Advent.
later.
Keep screaming down the hill in whatever wagon you're in. See you
Keep
at
your
the bottom.
elbows in.
Yeah. Bye-bye.